Red 2 standing by, all for lit and in the green. Welcome back to Donkey Kong 64. In this episode, Beavers. We have a few enemies to take down. Look at those ridiculous critters in sheets. So I think we do actually need the baboon balloon to float all the way up there. I'll need to get my gun, pop that banana balloon wherever it is. Once again, I'm demonstrating that I'm an absolutely terrible shot. Now, go back into first-person view, and we need the sniper scope to hit those switches. We'll have to reposition ourselves around the room, but we will be able to hit all three and we will activate that massive air vent in the middle of the floor, which will bring us upwards to our doom, because, as I said, we're facing beavers. For whatever unfathomable reason, they decided to put two Beaver Bothers in Creepy Castle. Both of them requiring 15 beavers to win. This is gonna suck. This is probably... Beavers? Probably the scariest part of the entire level, if I'm gonna be honest. This has got a lot of standard horror tropes. Now, let's see. No, we don't actually need Baboon Balloon. We do actually need Baboon Balloon. So we will only get part of the way up there if we don't have Baboon Balloon. That's a little weird. Now we get ready for the terrible part. 15 beavers in 60 seconds. Can my sanity handle this after the rabbit and the beetle and everything I discovered with, what was it? Busy Barrel Barrage. I don't know. I don't think so. Let's see how we go. Now, of course, if they run straight at it, they generally don't fall in. That's the big issue with this. The fact that they can't just run straight in. And I think one of them ran over the hole. Sort of have to come at them from an angle. If you fall in the hole, obviously you lose. But yeah, this one sucks because you can't really get the beavers going in the right direction. They won't just run straight in. This could take a very, very long time. How did the first one go so smoothly? Well, we're going to have to cue a montage, I think. The problem with this is the ledge gravity. Like, you have absolutely no problems about walking into the pit. The beavers can practically moonwalk on the pit. They can walk backwards. They can be walking right up against the pit and they simply will not fall in. Because if you could actually make the beavers fall in at a fairly normal rate... Like, look at that one. That one is just walking straight at the pit, but for whatever reason it doesn't fall in. Like, you could increase the amount of beavers you had to herd in, but you could also fix that ledge gravity, because the fact that they just don't walk in there, that even if you scare them directly onto the pit, unless you send them in at very specific angles, they won't fall in, actually really screws you. That's the issue. Just get in the pit! Oh no, I only had one to go. But that gives me hope. That gives me hope. Then I'll go back to beavers not going into the pit. You are going to hear the sound of beavers in your nightmares. Okay. Chase them. One of them has just run in randomly. 4, 3. Get in the hole. 2, 1, 4, 3. No! God damn it, one more beaver. Have you ever tried to herd cats? This is, like, you can't really herd cats. Let's be honest. That beaver was moonwalking. I think it even ran over the top of the hole. Like, you can't herd cats. It's just not really possible. I think they actually tested it on Mythbusters and you just can't herd cats. Cats are easy compared to beavers. The problem with this is that we're essentially trying to outsmart a computer program and make it do something we want it to do. Problem is, without specific instruction, like look at that beaver running at the edge of the hole. To borrow from Yogi Berra, if people don't want to go to the game, how are you going to stop them? If beavers don't want to go in the hole, how are we going to stop them? Some of the challenges in this were just pure jank. And you wonder what on earth they were thinking. Rare makes beautiful games. But what were they thinking? Why did they not test this? There's only so much you can talk about. I mean... Ugh, damn it. But at the end of the day, if the beaver doesn't want to go in the hole, the beaver doesn't want to go in the hole. You can't... Because of the mechanics of this game, you can't force... There's only so much you can do to force them into the hole, and even your attempts to... See, look at that one. Basically, dead on the edge of the hole. 3 of them. All of them are hanging around the hole. And they will not run in. Alright, one more to go. Come on. Scare it the right way. Yes! It has taken me close to half an hour. But we have completed beavers. And we have to go and get the baboon balloon. Which is really annoying. We have to drop all the way down. So there's probably going to be a separate episode for beaver ranting. I'll basically wind up having all that skipped out, but we can finally leave this tower. We have completed pretty much everything we needed to. So what's worse is there's more. If we head down to the old tree near the start, more beavers. So I think that's sort of the plan. Now that I'm in form, we get Chunky into the old tree and we get beavers out of the way. Because I want that done. I want to avoid dealing with beavers as much as possible. We do it, we get going, and then basically you get a special bonus episode of me ranting about beavers. I'll continue sort of that game design topic I was talking about in there, and then I will get back to sort of what I was intending to talk about. Now, inside this tree, we can find Chunky's Kasplat in here, or was it DK's? There was someone's Kasplat in here. Maybe it was Donkey's. I could be misremembering. I could have some sort of beaver-induced insanity. Okay, so if we step on that, the switch rotates. Sort of forcing the sniper scope in. Where is that banana balloon? let's at least hit the switch. And then we can try and find... Wow. Well, I'm just as bad a shot as usual, but now we move on to the second Beaver Bother. Help. Like, Mario Golf Super Rush is a problem with that mentality because the base game is... It is a golf game. It does golf game things. It does exactly what you might expect a golf game to do. It is a golf game bought by the yard. It is a functional game. It switches on. It does video game things. But it does not have any of the essence that I expect from Mario Golf games. It does not feel like a true Mario Golf game. It feels boring. It feels gimmicky. It feels like there is enough content to satisfy the bare minimum to say this is a game that is functional, we have released it, go and buy it. But it is not... It is not a good game. I mean, it functions, but it's not a good game. There's nothing to it. There's no substance. There's no style. There's none of the character that, say, Toadstool Tour had, for example. It is a thoroughly boring game with no soul, nothing interesting. That beaver really should have gone in the hole. I keep thinking they keep walking over the top of it. I mean, I sometimes wonder if they've come up with every idea for the Pokemon games right off the bat. It's just really weird. Because, in a sense, the third version kind of doesn't... The third version kind of renders everything else pretty useless. There have been exceptions to this, of course. Red and Blue had Yellow as their third version. Now, in the international Pokemon versions, Green was that... Red and Green were the original games, and Blue was the... Well, for the Japanese versions, Red and Green were the originals. Blue was actually the third version. What we got was based on the Japanese Blue version with the Pokédex distribution of Red and Green. It was actually pretty interesting because Red and Green were kind of janky and the sprites were even more off-model than what we got. Yellow version is actually acceptable as a third version because it's an anime tie-in. It's something completely different. It's actually changing things up a little bit along the way. So because it's not directly remaking Red and Blue, but with a few extra bits and pieces, and actually did wind up fixing quite a lot of bugs, it's actually... I think it's justifiable as existing as that third version. Crystal version didn't really add a lot. On the surface, it might not have added a lot, but the fact that you could add and play as a female trainer for the first time was actually pretty significant for a lot of people. It added the Battle Tower, so in a sense it's a progenitor to Emerald version. It added the plot with Suicune, which was beautifully included into Heart Gold and Soul Silver. Once again, we're seeing that stupid ledge gravity that just somehow stops the beavers falling in. This is going to be tough. Basically, like, Emerald was so much better than Red and Blue, it makes you wonder why didn't they just release Emerald? And then, Platinum version. Diamond and Pearl were good in terms of overall technical advancements for game mechanics. Platinum is so much better as a game. It makes me wonder why they didn't just work with Platinum, because Platinum has a really, really cool story. Maybe they thought up the ideas afterwards. That, I guess, is understandable. And this one somehow has even worse ledge gravity than the last one. Platinum had really cool ideas. Black and White 2 were actually sequels. So that that was fairly acceptable. They did something different. Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon went down the black and white path. We didn't get a Z version that focused on Zygarde. But I just seriously do wonder why they didn't add some of those ideas in. Because we know quite well that a lot of these ideas are really, really good. Now, there are still plenty of crap ideas that have shown up in the Pokemon games. And for some reason, Game Freak seems to run with those, especially roaming legendary Pokemon. Like, I don't know why they always manage to take out the really, really good ideas and leave a lot of the really crap ones in. But yeah, basically, those... it makes me wonder why those third versions aren't focused on more, because that was my big concern with Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. Yeah, so they improved... They made Team Aqua and Team Magma's plans a little less moronic. Fair enough. But the problem is that they don't do enough to capture the essence of the best version of Hoenn, Ruby version. Instead, we got a plot that was cribbed from Pokemon Mystery Dungeon. Mystery Dungeon's a good game, but it's just that everything with Rayquaza stopping the Meteor had already been done in Pokemon Mystery Dungeon. So the Delta episode was basically Pokemon Mystery Dungeon. But you had a sort of central figure who stole from people, was incredibly unlikable, and incredibly arrogant. I really, really don't like Zinnia, in case you haven't realized. Oh. It's... Yeah, because not enough... I don't... Okay, so I won't always do every single Battle Frontier facility, but I like having it there. As I've said, it's the observation Jeremy Clarkson brought up about Lamborghinis. He does like the sheer stupidity of Lamborghinis in a sense. They're not horrible cars, certainly not, but he likes the fact that they've always been a little bit exaggerated, a bit over the top, a bit fun. His attitude is, I don't want a Lamborghini, but I don't want to live in a world where the option to buy one doesn't exist. Excuse me, I've chased it around the hole 3 times and it didn't, twice maybe. This one's even worse, they're just not going in. Like, Pokemon's never been hard, but it's nice actually having the challenge option. Challenge mode in Black and White 2 was really, really good. It was nice actually having that opportunity to take on a tougher set of opponents with better Pokemon and improved AI. But we haven't actually done that. They don't have plans for difficulty settings, and that's kind of sad because, like, it probably doesn't take too much to tweak the... At least I don't think it takes too much to tweak the AI for things. Like, at least put it in just as an option. Like, I liked the way the experience share was set up in X and Y because it was an option. I played without it the first time I played through because I legitimately thought it worked like the experience all. Which you might not remember because I don't think anyone used that in Generation 1, but the experience all was basically you used this item on a Pokemon. There were no held items back in Generation 1. You young'uns might be a bit surprised, but there you go. So, you had that, you used that on a specific Pokemon, and when that Pokemon battled, it divided the experience evenly between all current members of your team. So, for example, if you had a healthy team of 6 Pokemon, the experience given would be divided by 6. Like, let's say, I think it's a trained level 32 Machoke gives 1,000 experience. If you had the experience all, that would be divided by 6. I think probably a better mathematical example, if we're looking for even division, is the level 28 trained Goldeen, which gives off, Messel symbol included, 666 experience. It would subsequently give 111 experience to all 6 members of your party. So that was how the experience all worked, and I thought that the new experience share worked like that, so I didn't want to use it. Now, let's be honest, a lot of RPGs do give leaked experience or experience to all members of the party. Now, Pokemon is notable for only having one member of the party fighting. It's only been sort of that one Pokemon gets the experience unless others battle alongside it, in which case you divide the experience up. Now, I know that is just sort of the done thing. There's no reason that you can't change that as such. Games can change, and while I don't always agree with that incarnation of the experience share, it was a nice option. The fact that it's sort of forced on you in Sword and Shield is a problem for me, because I sort of have to go to self-imposed challenges. I'd like the game to be a little bit more challenging on its own merits. There's plenty of scope for self-imposed challenges in Pokemon, which I definitely do enjoy. But I'd still rather the main game have a bit more challenge, or at least the option for a challenge, because an option doesn't hurt anyone who doesn't want to use it, no matter how poisonous the internet gets about it. Okay. Almost. Get in the hole. I think we've lost the run. Chase the beavers. I've lost the run. Oh, no. I lost the run. It went the wrong way. I could have had that, but everything I've said about hurting dumb animals. Alright, we're going okay. Okay, that was a little beaver bonanza. Turn around and get in the hole. 2 more to go. Oh, close again. But even then, that I know that's a really, really mean mindset to have, because game developers work under some really harsh conditions at times. Quite a lot of the times, in fact, especially in this current era, in the let's call them the during times of the pandemic. It's tough for game developers. It's still tough for game developers. It's really tough. And in all honesty, I'm probably being very harsh. There are lots of occasions where they do put in a lot of amazing work, and there are some really great game developers that provide great results. There are some really ones too, like Activision Blizzard. Nobody should be defending them. But in all seriousness, sometimes I do just wonder, it's like, what happened? Did somebody just make the decision to put the bare minimum in? Now, they do definitely need much healthier conditions. I think it was Supergiant who made Hades. They wound up being an absolutely fantastic story because they basically didn't use crunch practices. They made sure their employees had days off. They looked after them. And they produced a game that, well, I admit I haven't played it. I've heard so many good things about, and it's regarded as an absolute gem of an indie game. There have been lots of crunch practices with other games. I mean, even this one wound up a bit rushed along the way. There have been plenty of games that have come from rushing. Metroid Prime was a complete disaster in terms of time frame. It still managed to be one of the most beautiful games made, but it was just so horrible. So, yes, I do understand that. I do ultimately feel that there is that awkward balance between, look, sometimes I don't think that. Sometimes I don't think people do put effort into things, even if they clearly have. Oh. I kind of feel guilty about everything I kind of feel guilty about the things I've said, because so the more frustrated I get, I know a lot of games made around this time are experiencing significant difficulties. But sometimes I just wonder, okay? Sometimes I just wonder. I look at those, okay, we're going to add in free DLC, which is basically giving you this character, and I'm like, don't feel rushed. I think that's the best solution, to tell them don't feel rushed. Take your time. Add these things in over time. You know what? If people want instant gratification, which I suppose, for which you should never advocate, screw them. You know, screw pretty much everything I've said. That's really why I've realized through rambling that I do hate that I hate the idea of games being rushed and having everything added just at the end, because it's putting the unnecessary pressure on the developers. Because it's like saying, we have to have this out. People want the new game. So basically, give people enough time. Don't essentially force people into situations where they're basically having to release a game that is finished. It works, but it's also lacking in content. Like, I'm fairly certain that I would enjoy Mario Golf Super Rush if Super Rush didn't feel rushed. If there was all the content from the outset, if you had all the content we wanted, then it would probably be a really good game. It would feel a lot more entertaining. There would be a bit more character to it, because one of them just stumbled in. Okay, so I'll continue this for our little... So, this will end out off our little bit of a rant. There'd probably be a bit more content in a sense. There'd be more the games could do because they're not being rushed. If you actually let developers take their time, if they don't have to release things by a certain time, if you say, okay, the game's not quite what we want it to be. Frustrating as it is waiting for Metroid Prime, we know that they're trying to get it right. If they'd waited, if Super Rush had been allowed to wait, if they took a bit of time to put those things they wanted to put into the game, and we had to wait for that, I'd be fine with that. That's really why I don't like all those patches, because to me it says it's symptomatic of a culture that forces game developers to release products that, while functional, while essentially complete games, are too short and putting too much pressure on them. Alright. I don't know how long that took me. Probably about half an hour again. I think of my actual recording work, I've spent nearly an hour chasing beavers. I'm going nuts. I've been rambling about why I think I'm probably not going to give you a beaver bonus. I'm probably not going to give you a beaver bonus video because I don't think I got the right commentary for it. Let's see, what should we do? We should probably grab Diddy and get to the bonus barrel on top of the castle. Because what I was talking about, I started talking about fixing things up in games. In fact, I'll skip all the beaver fiascos and we'll basically wind up getting to talking about what I was talking about there. So, like, our Beaver Bother fiascos made me think of play testing. Now, with modern game design, you could play test Beaver Bother. You could fix it up with patches. And that would be very fortuitous. Because, to be honest, Beaver Bother is horrible. In all fairness, I think that would be a good idea. That would be why I would defend games having patches. But I also feel that it's kind of a mix between potentially lazy game design and an issue with essentially forcing developers into sticking to certain time schedules. Because we've all heard stories about horrible crunch practices. And that's really not on. There we go. I really don't think crunch practices should be a thing. Nobody does. And I think we need sort of opportunities for developers to have the time to actually do things. Because I feel that with things like Mario Golf Super Rush, there's always that sort of question of, did you actually get to make the game you wanted? Is it just... Or is it just a bit of a... How do I phrase it right? Like, Super Rush is a functional game. It's not horrible. It works, but it just feels so devoid of content. And they added in a new course, they added in Toadette. And I'm sort of wondering, why wasn't this in from the start? What was the reason for it? On one hand, it can be used as a means of, like, saying it's lazy game development in some people's eyes. They obviously don't get every idea sorted out, but the question is, if a developer's got an idea and they don't have the opportunity to put it into what should be the finished product, what in the broader scope of things is causing that to happen? Why is it happening like that? Is it because is it because of the issues with the pandemic, that they want at least a finished product out there? In some sense, I suppose there's got to be a bit of a demand for people's money. Okay, I'm not going to be able to use that simple exploit. I'm going to have to chase the things. And once again, I think the hitboxes on this are a little janky. This one could take a while too. But in all fairness, like, I really do think that there's more to it than just it's lazy game design. I do think, in a sense, it could encourage laziness if people just go, okay, we can fix this up later on. Let's just add in more content. I appreciate it for bug fixes and balance patches. That is definitely understandable and justifiable, and I really appreciate developers using it for those, but I suppose I'm always going to have doubts because, sort of, as I've been thinking with the Pokemon games, there's some content that you just wonder why wasn't it in the base game. If the original game is so sort of short on content, why aren't certain things in the base game to begin with? Oh, it was a really good run until this one. And you have to get it right on the edge of the swatter. It's a bit bothersome. Yeah, I've always, I've realized the problems with the third versions of Pokemon, and I use that as a big example. Like, you sort of think about it, why wasn't certain content in the base game? Because it gets to a point that when we come to the remakes, like Heart Gold and Soul Silver added in the bits and pieces from Crystal quite nicely. But Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, on the other hand, didn't take any leads from Emerald, and Emerald is pretty much the superior version of the Hoenn experience. That, I don't think that can be argued, because it has so much more content, there's so much more soul to it, and the fact that the Battle Frontier is still there as an option. I sort of went off on a massive rant about options, but basically I like being able to choose whether or not I take on those difficult challenges. Like, just because I don't want to play the battle frontier doesn't mean that it shouldn't exist in the games. At least as far as I'm concerned, anyway. If people want to give it a go, especially since the accessibility of competitive battling has increased drastically. We can head down to the library with DK. Having the options is nice, but I suppose there are certain things which aren't for everyone, because it would be a bit of a nuisance at the same time if you're programming something into your game only for it to not be used. That would kind of suck, in all fairness. So maybe I can see why they didn't want to put it in. I can sort of argue that they should have put it in. It's really all up to the developers, and it's kind of a fiddly one. There's actually so much more to consider. That I suppose I didn't think everything through. All things, dare I say it, considered. What's around this way? Ah, yes. Enemies! Two for the price of one. And one more enemy around there. Yeah, it's kind of a difficult situation. I'd actually love to find out some information from the developers of Mario Golf Super Rush or games like that as to why they sort of have those situations where they wind up developing something, but they add the bits and pieces as you go. Now, it's nice to add ideas along the way. Maybe it's a case of they're not adding certain things if they don't have... I don't know, it's just so confusing because it feels like, on the one hand, it feels like you're being denied the content. But on the other hand, you know that there's so much that goes on in the world of game developing, especially in these times, that it's just awkward to get it right. I'm not sure if I can organize any sort of legitimate critique because I don't have all the answers. I mean, I'm used to sort of the idea of a delayed game potentially being good, but a rushed game being forever bad. But even this wasn't necessarily bad. They don't have to be bad. We do know that we've actually got a fairly hostile crowd over here. Obviously, Cheeto's cousins aren't very happy to see us. Not looking very nice there. We had to charge through them. They really are throwing the book at us. No, we'll be able to get out, though. I'll keep going for a little bit more on this. I think the reason I basically cut out all the rambling I had on Beaver Bother was because the more I rambled about it, the more I realized that I was actually not quite thinking fairly. And I'd rather sort of try and consider as many signs as possible, get all the information on hand, and then make my decisions. And I just don't have all the information. I know that the idea of, we can just patch it in later, can, if abused, lend itself to lazy design. But is there a reason for it? Like, what is the motivating factor behind certain things? I want to go down and do DK's gold banana at the tree, and we can wrap things up. We can sort of make our way along the castle, save ourselves a bit of hassle, and here we go. Down in the old tree with DK. I think we get DK's Kasplat here. Ah, bit of a problem. Change of targets. Do we home in on the switch, or do we home in on the bat? Switch seems to take priority. There we are. And banana medal already. We can get some crystal coconuts too, and we have to use the sniper scope for this challenge. So you can see why I spent a bit of time trying to actually get all those things. Because without the sniper scope, without the super duper simian slam, there's a lot of things you can't do. So we need to hit the targets here, and we need to raise the water level so we can get A, the gold banana, and B, the banana fairy. Well, we can get the banana fairy. I'm surprised that counted. Alright, so we didn't need to worry about that, but we obviously can't get the gold banana. And if we zoom in... Alright, nailed one target. Now, strangely enough, water doesn't wind up coming out of the tree. And this isn't a timed challenge, thankfully. That would be a nuisance. But yeah, I've thought about a lot of things, and I've realized that I don't have the answers. I don't have what I could ultimately term a fair assessment of things because I don't have all the information to hand. I guess I don't want that whole approach of we can just add it in later to lend itself to lazy game design. Because there are many problems in the industry as is. There are lots of issues, and I don't think we need to have any more problems made for developers. I think we need to be understanding. But at the same time, there are some things we do need to be understanding of all the work developers go through. I'm very grateful for the developers and the composers, their work. At the same time, there are certain things that just make me wonder. And it's a little unusual, I know. But I just can't help but wonder why certain games do seem to be a bit sparse. I know that some of them just sort of lack a bit of charm along the way. Like, I pick on Super Rush so much because I do think it legitimately lacks charm compared to a lot of other games. Well, compared to pretty much every other game in the Mario Golf series. And I know that not every game is going to be perfect. But I do believe that even in difficult times, just putting in that little bit of extra work really does add so much to a game. That little bit of extra heart and soul. When it's missing from any game by any company, it's so sad. Because you miss out on so much potential, so many good ideas. But even then, like, a game doesn't have to be long. It doesn't have to be long to be good. You can make a short game that is charming. Like, I love Banjo-Kazooie Grunty's Revenge. I've been working on that. It's short, but I find it really charming. Now, which way do I have to go? I'll chip at this for a bit longer now. So we have 3 paths down here in this sinister crypt. We're getting a few Shadow Temple vibes here as far as I'm concerned. Deep down in this bone pit, this is Diddy's. So at least we've got those teleporters. So if I go this way and then split the other way, that should be donkeys. We have a few different challenges to try down here. Ah, there we are. And yeah, as I mentioned, those moans we're hearing, those are basically sped up versions of DK's signature noises. That's Grant Kirkhope's voice work. Kirkhope also voiced Mumbo Jumbo, it's worth noting, and several other characters in the Banjo series. For example, when it comes to Mumbo's famous Umanaka chant, it is Grant Kirkhope, essentially a modified version of Grant Kirkhope saying Umi Nakas. Now, do I have to pull this one next? Let's see. Well, obviously I didn't get hurt, so that worked. The bones decided, hey, get off these levers. But there we are. This should grant us entry to the final minecart challenge. Probably a good point to wrap up this episode, because I think I've probably gone a little bit mad because of beavers, but we'll have some more positive topics later on. So, this same controls as before. We have to jump, and we jump with A. And now this is a real advantage, because we actually we can jump to avoid any obstacles in our way. Keep dodging those attacks, and probably the thing that makes this such a joke, in all fairness, is the fact that we basically get to come back through it. And we only have to get 25 coins. In all fairness, this is so absurdly easy. The fact we only have to get 25 coins makes this so simple. At least as far as I'm concerned, anyway. Just watch out for all the obstacles. See, we've got 25 coins and we come back through this. Which means that if we wind up with any problems, all those coins we missed the first time around, we actually get to try for again. Oh, I got winged there. So we might have a few pop-up surprises. But we go hammer and tongs here, and we turn around. So, like I said, any coins we miss out on, we do still have to deal with the Resident Demon again. But that's... well, it's piss easy, really. So we just cruise along carefully. Hate trying to get some of those high ones because they are they're sprites existing in 3D space. Which can make it a little difficult. Not going for that one. Give it the beans! Right, now let's see if we can outrun it. Whoa, no we cannot. That was rough. Those ones appeared right in my ass. Or did I accidentally slow down because the camera changed? Oh well. That's hubris for you. But like I said, we've got so many opportunities to pick up coins. Like, I've screwed up badly. And I still have 37 coins. 38. With a bit of timing... this bit's safe. Like, you get to that bit, that is so easy. Like, that is almost painfully easy. It's not really a challenge at all, in all fairness. If you know what you're doing. And for once, I've actually proven reasonably competent. So, we'll exit from here. We'll grab Diddy. And we can also take on Tiny's challenge, too. Might as well grab Diddy to get the Kasplat, and then we can wind things up. Duck around here, and we're good to go with Diddy in the next one. Thank you very much for joining me. Till next time, this is Red 2, returning to base.